All right, what's up, fellas? So today we're going to be talking about inconsistency. How can we be more consistent in our lives? If you're anything like me, this is something that you've probably struggled with before in your past. And the reason why this is so important is because there is no way that we can achieve results in our life without being consistent with certain tasks and objectives that must get done. And in order to create lasting success, in order to create lasting results in anything, there are tasks that must consistently get done. However, we struggle oftentimes with certain areas of our life where we are consistently inconsistent. So the question is, what can we do to avoid being inconsistent? And what are some key things that we can do and ways of thinking to ensure that we can avoid this inconsistency and be very consistent, maybe even to the point of how often I'm saying the word consistent in this intro. But today we're going to be talking about that on Elite Performance with Dr. Brad. Let's get it. All right, fellas. So, time to go ahead and get it in. I enjoy this topic because I've looked at this in my own life and wondered, like, why am I not, why am I not being consistent in this area? It could be in fitness, it could be in my faith, it could be showing up as the father or husband that I want to be. It could be in certain relationships. Like, what is causing this inconsistency? And I don't know. You may suffer from the same thing. It's like, have you ever known that there's something that you're supposed to do? You know that there are tasks and there are some actions that you need to do, but you still don't do it. Like you have a high awareness of, I'm supposed to be creating that presentation, I'm supposed to be doing this one thing, but I'm just not doing it. I'm highly aware of what I need to be doing and what I'm not doing. And I know that if I don't do it, there might be some sort of consequence, yet and still, I'm choosing not to do it. And then you feel horrible about the fact that you didn't do it or the result didn't happen. And you know it was because of a level of inconsistency. If that's the case, listen, I understand. And I've been there many times before in my own life, too many times to count. However, because of that, I have examined this, and there are ways to shortcut and avoid this inconsistency. There are ways to accelerate your performance, to accelerate your success, to literally accelerate your results through some of the things that I've learned in my own life to be able to accelerate results in my life, in my work, my business, my career, my life, my personal life. And so, why is this important? This topic is important because, in order for you to succeed, and this is in any aspect of life, in order for you to achieve results, whether personally or professionally, whether in your relationships, whether in your relationships in business or your personal relationships, marriage, family, friends, whether it's in your health, it doesn't matter. In order to achieve success or results that last, there must be consistency done. I am more impressed by consistency over time than I am speed of getting to a result. You know, I'm all in on the tortoise versus the hare. Like the hare obviously can move fast, they can get there, but the tortoise, just because of consistency over time, over and over and over and over, just being consistent, it's just going to be hard to beat the the tortoise, when really and truly, I guess the hare could have beat the tortoise if he just stayed focused. However, I am more impressed by consistency. So if someone tells me, man, I lost weight, and you always hear me use weight loss as an example, only because it's just a simple, very tangible, quick, easy way to use an example. But someone says, you know what, I lost 100 pounds over a year and I've kept it off over the last 5 years, means way more to me than somebody saying, man, I lost 100 pounds in 3 months. right? The fact that someone stayed consistent over time means a whole lot more to me. But the point that I'm making, the original point, is that consistency is required for lasting results. There are certain actions that need to be done over and over and and over and over and over again, or we can kiss our results goodbye, or we can kiss the sustainability, the maintenance of those results goodbye. We have to be consistent. Results require consistency. And so, how does this level of inconsistency and lack of commitment, right? Commitment and consistency kind of go hand in hand. And so, how does this lack of consistency or commitment really manifest in our life? Because it shows up in every area, right? Our faith requires, and our relationship with God requires, a certain level of consistency of building that relationship. It requires a certain regularity of sitting down with God with full attention, with undivided attention, with unhurried time with God. There's just a level of consistency that you have to do that. If not, you stray away. And you may have heard me say this before: proximity to God equals peak performance. So you start noticing your performance go down. You start noticing things are kind of getting out of whack because of the lack of consistency of spending that time with God, the lack of consistency of being in the Word. And we see this in our family and our relationships. If there's not a consistency of date night, if there's not a consistency of spending time with my kids, if there's not a consistency of putting my phone away and and having my undivided attention toward them, well, my relationship's going to suffer. If there's an inconsistency in my health, I'm going to gain weight. If there's an inconsistency in the way I eat, if there's an inconsistency in the way I save money or the way I manage money, my finances are going to get out of whack. If there's an inconsistency in the patients that I see or the clients that I take care of, my business is going to change. Consistency is key. Consistency is key. And so we often think we have this very, it's interesting, we have this very consistent way of thinking that unfortunately breeds inconsistency and a desire to avoid even setting goals anymore. So here's what happens. We will be consistent in something and we'll basically say and think, well, I just need to work harder. Like, I just need to work harder. I need to focus more. And I just really need to take this serious. I just need to get my butt together. I just need to get my you know what together and just buckle down and do it. Okay. And what happens when we think this way is it turns into very temporary motivation, right? We get motivated very temporarily, kind of, kind of slap ourselves in the head and just say, all right, time to go. And we end up being motivated for a short period of time. However, this ends up leading right back to where we were before at some point in the future, being inconsistent again, not going to the gym, not showing up, not spending time with God, not spending time with our family. And we go right back to the habits that we were doing of inconsistency that didn't allow us to get the results that we wanted in the first place. Right? This happens. This has happened to me. And so what happens after that is now you become afraid to even set a goal again because you're afraid of the fear of failure, and knowing that if you set the goal again and look in the mirror and try to hit yourself in the head and try to say, I just got to get my mind right, and try to say, I just need to focus more, that is going to end up in the same thing again. So therefore you don't even set the goal anymore because you're like, I'm tired of the failure and the shame of inconsistency again. So now you just stay stuck in that certain area, right? So we want to avoid this. So what I want to do is bring some awareness to how this inconsistency takes place and to give some information on how this takes place. So here's some reasons why we are inconsistent, to give you some insight. That's the word I was looking for. Not just information, but some insight into how this works and how this breaks down. And so there are 7 reasons why we become inconsistent or why we lack commitment. So number 1 is, and a lot of these are kind of tied together. But number one is not understanding the cost of inconsistency. So for many of us, we just don't really understand the gravity of what happens if we are not consistent. We don't fast forward to um, what is the consequence of inconsistency. We don't really contemplate that. Okay, number two is uh, the commitment to our goal doesn't cost us enough. Okay, there's got to be a certain level of cost, and this is what this podcast is about: is what is the cost of inconsistency? Like, how can we uh, be more consistent? And so I'm going to really kind of come back to numbers one and two. But that's a second reason why we lack commitment. It just doesn't cost us enough. When we invest more into something, so does our commitment. The level of investment that we put towards something, and when I say investment, I really mean resources, whether that's money, time, energy, effort. The more we invest in something, the greater our commitment becomes. So for many of us, it's just not costing us enough. Okay. Number one is really, for many of us, it just doesn't hurt enough yet. Like, we just don't understand the cost of what happens if, or the consequences, or maybe we just haven't experienced it yet. Number three is we don't understand our identity. And in there, and in that space, we also don't understand our gifts and talents. What I mean by that is many of us don't understand our true identity. Many of us don't understand what we're capable of. We were not made as inconsistent individuals. We're actually made in God's image and likeness. Well, God's not inconsistent, right? We were not made that way. However, we will take a certain time in our lives where we were inconsistent or made a mistake, and then we place that inconsistency as our identity and then say, oh man, I just can't get my stuff together. So we take some sort of past experience, turn it into identity, and now we believe we are inconsistent people when that's not the case. So we don't understand our true identity of who we are, who God created us to be. So therefore, we label ourselves as inconsistent, or I struggle in this area, or I just can't do it. I just can't seem to can't see. If you say any of that stuff, it's because internally, your identity, you feel like you're an inconsistent individual. Couldn't be any further from the truth. Okay. And we don't know our gifts and talents. And so because we don't understand what our true gifts and talents were that were gifted to us by God in order for us to really focus on and use those gifts and talents to be able to help bring value to the marketplace, to be able to help other people improve and to create impact, well, we do other things. So if we focus on our gifts and talents, we would spend more time and energy using our gifts and talents, which really leads me to number four, which one of the reasons why we're inconsistent and why we lack commitment is because of distraction. We allow ourselves to do things that are completely outside of our gifts and talents and that don't optimize the efficiency of our time. I'll give you an example. I don't like um, I don't like bookkeeping, right? I just don't like it. I don't like doing my taxes. Therefore, I don't like it. I'm not good at it. Could I be better at it? Sure. But I don't have a desire to do that. That's not a gift and talent of mine. Like, if that's the case, I need someone else to do that. But for many of us, we're putting so many responsibilities on us that's taking away our attention energy. We only have so much attention energy in a day. And most of that should be, or I should say, most of that, when we spend most of our attention energy toward something that is using our gifts and talents, that's a more efficient use of our time. Not doing something we have no interest in at all, and that's sucking the energy out of us. It's going to be beneficial to find somebody else to do that for us, right? It's going to be beneficial to find somebody else to edit my podcast because I don't like editing the podcast. I like doing the podcast. I like speaking, right? That's a gift and talent of mine. But editing it, nope, don't want to do it. So yes, I will be inconsistent in editing it if I got to continue to edit it, right? But if I can have someone else edit it, guess what? That gives me attention energy that I can use toward being consistent in something else that I really could be more efficient in my time in, which is speaking and coaching, right? So basically, we're typically consistent in the things that we enjoy doing, or that brings us joy. Oftentimes, you'll notice that you're inconsistent in something that you really don't want to do anyway, right? So if you can find someone else to do those things, that gives you more. You basically got to set yourself up to win. You want to be consistent in the things that you want to do, that you like to do. If you don't like doing it and it's just a struggle and it's just like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? Find somebody else to do it. Okay. Number five, one of the reasons why we're inconsistent and lack commitment is because of lack of clarity of what we want. We don't sit down and say, what do I want? And be open and honest with ourselves and say, what do I want? Get clear on what the end goal is, get clear on what we want really comprehensively in a holistic view of our entire lives. Because when we start to say, well, what do I want? We'll start realizing, well, then why, if this is what I want, and this is how I want life to look, well, then why am I doing these things? Why am I doing this thing or that thing? You get more clarity. You start to trim the fat on your life, and you can say, well, okay, I can take this out of my life because this is inconsistent with where I'm trying to go. Or I should say, so that I'm not saying consistent so many times, this is incongruent with what I'm trying to do. So therefore, I don't need to do it. So we lack clarity. Number six is we have a low capacity. Our mindset doesn't allow us to operate at a higher capacity. Right? Our mindset and our personal development of how we see ourselves, we have a low capacity of what we can do. So this kind of goes back to our identity, right? Our mindset isn't at a level to where we can remain consistent and have a certain level of endurance and perseverance over time, because our mindset just kind of starts to wear out. We can't perform beyond the level of how we see ourselves and how we believe in ourselves. And then last but not least, it's pride and selfishness. What I mean by that is that we're trying to do it all on our own. Right. And much of that is a prideful thing. We want to get credit. We want to own it. We want to be able to say that I did it. We feel good when we do things. Right. We feel good about ourselves when we do things. We want to be doers. We want to be out here, doing all the stuff. And we want to be able to say, like, I did this and that and this. I did, 12 things today. Right. So the pride and the selfishness of wanting to do it our way and trying to do it all on our own is slowing us down significantly. And so we're going to talk about numbers 1, 2, and 7 today. That's really what this podcast is about. Those are 7 reasons, but I want to focus on the cost of being inconsistent and the investment and so forth. And so what I found is that inconsistency and commitment has nothing to do with working harder or focusing more or just getting your act together, but has everything to do with investment toward the result that you're going for and cost. It has everything to do with investment and cost. Basically, what I mean is this. This is the part I want you to write down or to remember, is your level of commitment and consistency toward a goal is equal to your level of investment toward that goal, or the cost of inconsistency if you don't do the task that you need to do. So I'll say that again. Your level of commitment and consistency is equal to the level of investment or the cost of being inconsistent. We're going to break this down. Here's the deal. Let me just say this real quick before I break this down. The way to accelerate your results, hands down, the way to accelerate your results in any area of life, I don't care what that area of life is to get help. Right? This is not hard. Like, it was hard for me because, and it may be hard for you because what that costs you is really your pride, is really your pride, by saying, I can't do this on my own. I need help. And I'm going to surrender to how you are going to help me to do it. Right. But the way to accelerate results is just to ask for help. Ask for help. It costs you your pride and selfishness, yes, because you got to be willing to do things the coach's way or the mentor's way, right? But here's the deal. The reason why you're inconsistent is because you've been attempting to do it your way this entire time, which is why it's not working, right? It's not that you don't want it bad enough. You want it. You want the goal. You want to hit the finances. You want the business to hit the next level. You want to lose the weight. You want the marriage to get better. You want the faith to be awesome. Like, you want all these things. It's not because of a lack of a desire. You just oftentimes you just don't know how to do it. So the biggest way to accelerate results is to get help. Okay. Now, I'm going to break this down here because it doesn't matter what the goal is. Commitment and consistency is equal to investment or cost of inconsistency. So again, the way to accelerate results is to get help. And that sometimes you got to pay for that. There's an investment in that, right? So for example, in your health, you can either accelerate your results, because this is what we're talking about on this podcast. How can we perform at a high level? It's called elite performance. I want to accelerate and have you make quantum leaps in your life in certain areas. So let's just get straight to it. Just get some help. So let's talk about your health for a second. You can either pay the money to get a personal trainer, to get a fitness expert. Okay. So it can cost you that upfront cost and investment, or it's going to be the cost of inconsistency, meaning, you get a heart attack or you get diabetes. And sometimes it's the cost of inconsistency that gets people moving and off their butt, right? They have the heart attack. I've seen a ton of people, it's like, we're very unhealthy. You get a heart attack. It's a wake-up call. Excuse me. It's a wake-up call. The cost of inconsistency starts to make them consistent, right? But sometimes it's just the investment. Let me tell you something. When you pay enough money towards something, you show up. I think about medical school. Dude, listen to this. Almost $200,000 worth of medical school. $200,000 regarding undergrad and medical school. Guess what? I showed up. You didn't have to convince me to show up and be committed. It was $200,000 worth of investment. And guess what? Oh, you're going to pass, Brad. You feel me? Like, you are going to pass. But it was an investment. If medical school costs $10,000, guess what? I just may not take it as serious. You have way less people dropping out in med school than you do in undergrad. One of the reasons I feel is, guess what? It just costs you more. For some of us, it don't cost us enough at first. It don't cost us enough. Let's talk about marriage. You can pay for counseling, get a really good counselor, or it ends up costing you a potential divorce, or things get really bad because of the lack of consistency. Now, you can pay the price up front to get to where you want to go and pay for the coach. And here's the deal, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is that upfront investment needs to be enough of an investment where you really feel it. It's like, ooh, I gotta really kind of come off of this cash. I really gotta find some help. I really need, because it's got to make you show up. It's got to make you be like, dude, if I'm paying this, well, I'm showing up, right? Friend and I were talking about this earlier. It's like, it's the difference between paying a meal at a real nice steakhouse, dropping $200-$300, versus going to Outback Steakhouse. And guess what? If I go pay $200-$400, I'm bringing a doggy bag. I mean, like, I'm dressing nice. Like, I'm gonna be there. Like, I'm taking that food home, right? But if it's Outback Steakhouse, I just might leave my leftovers there. Don't take it as serious, right? It's not a certain level of commitment, right? You haven't bought in yet, figuratively and literally. But marriage, so yeah, you can get the counselor, or you can potentially get a divorce. Things go bad. Now you want to get your butt in gear, but it might be too late, right? In your career business, you can pay money for a leadership coach. If we're talking about accelerating results, you can pay money for a leadership coach. Start making it happen, right? Leading your team, leading your business, or you can have a flailing business or career. Career start going downhill, and then that's a wake up call enough to do something different. Finances, same thing. Money, you can find a financial expert or pay the money for some education, or you cannot hit your finance goals, right? Now, here's what's interesting when it comes to faith is that our faith actually ultimately costs us more than money. And you can have spiritual coaches. I mean, you can have, you pay someone, but in order to really build a relationship with God, our salvation costs us more than money. Because to experience real true salvation, like if somebody's saying like, man, I'm struggling with my relationship with God, like I'm struggling getting close to him, I'm struggling being consistent in my relationship and really building that thing. Well, I would say it probably hasn't cost you enough yet. What I mean by that is this: we care the most about what we care the most about in our lives, 110% is ourselves. That is what matters most to us. We want to self-preserve. We want to survive. It's about me, me, me. Our lives, we care most about us than anything else. We look in the mirror every day. We hear ourselves talk every day. Our lives are about us. We care about ourselves more than anything. It's not a bad thing. It's intrinsic to us. We have to self-preserve. We want to do well. We want to see ourselves do well. Life's about us. It's what matters most to us. And when it comes to our salvation, God is saying, yeah, well, the cost, the investment is actually going to be giving up you. I want you to give up all of that selfishness, that stuff that you want, to me. Saying, there's one throne in your life, and right now you're sitting on it, Brad. You're sitting on it, feeling whatever your name is. And he's saying, I want you to come off of it so that I can sit there. See, it still comes at a cost, though. There's still an investment. And the greater the investment, where you go all in, giving up your life, right? That's what he said. He said, I'm expecting you to give up your life for me, because in return of that investment, you will get more. The more I've given my life willingly and my will to God, the more I've been committed to God. Because I've given up so much, because I had control of my life with a G.I. Joe grip, like having a G.I. Joe grip on a steering wheel, not wanting to clench fists on the steering wheel. I wanted the control. He's saying, no. It's going to cost you that control. The more I've invested in giving up myself, the more I've elevated my level of commitment. My commitment rose to God with my level of investment of what he wanted for me, which is more than money. We can get money back. I mean, but like when you invest you and you say, I'm giving myself up, that's huge. But what I've got in return from that investment is a level of commitment and consistency that has happened with God, that it turns into what is like a tangible relationship. Tangible as me being able to talk to my wife right in front of me. Can't tell you the amount of effect that's had in every area of my life. It's made me highly effective in both work and life. I make that point all to say that no matter what area of life, if you're trying to accelerate, if commitment or consistency is a problem, invest in it, and invest uncomfortably, where it makes you uncomfortable, like, ooh, because you're going to care about it. You're going to show up because of it. Or it's going to get to a point where it's going to cost you There's going to be the cost of inconsistency, and that's going to wake you up enough, but it's too late. I'm trying to help you accelerate results. Don't wait for the inconsistency to happen and the cost of inconsistency to make you get moving. Invest now. Accelerate the results. Get a jump, get a head start. Now, here's the reason. The reason why investment works is it will accelerate your commitment. It will make you show up. I showed up for medical school, man. Let me tell you, I studied. I had to study my tail off, and I did it because I knew there was an investment on the line. I took it more serious. I took it more serious than I did undergrad because there was a bigger investment. Okay. We justify the cost when we invest. When you invest that kind of money, you find reasons to say why it's good because you spent that money because you're like, man, I paid this money. I paid this money, so it's got to be good. You'll find reasons for it to be good. You'll justify it. You know, you're trying to accelerate those results in the gym. Go get you an expensive coach. Go get you an expensive fitness coach, fitness expert. Watch the results happen. Now, the cool thing about the reason why this accelerates your results is because for all those reasons why we said, those 7 reasons why we're inconsistent, it helps with all that. It helps with commitment, it helps with mindset, it helps with not being distracted, with clarity, it helps with all that. Okay. And the interesting thing is you can't really place a monetary gain on what you get once you do the investment. It's hard for me to place a monetary gain uh, on the money I spent for medicine because there were so many experiences. Yes, I made that money back, but like it it equipped me to build a practice. It equipped me to have a business. I built so many relationships. There was really an intangible. There's so many intangible things that I can't put money on from what I invested. And if you invest in any area of your life like that, like there's gonna be intangibles of what you get back that you can't put money on, but it's gonna be more and worth more than what you invested. See, by me giving up my life for God's will, I got more than I ever invested. I can't even begin to tell you how effective my life is once I did that. But it cost me, right? It cost me. It can cost you, right? It can cost you the same thing. And you're going to get more effective in life once you give your life to Christ. Be in alignment with Him, be under authority of Him. Let Him sit on the throne and control things. We'll get into that into another podcast. However, so here's what I want you to do. If consistency is an issue, if lack of commitment is an issue, I want you to just pay somebody and make it uncomfortable. Find that area of your life, that one area of your life you're trying to get better. Find somebody who's got those results already and ask for help. That's the start. And pay them. Period. Just do it. And do it in an uncomfortable way. Right? Truth be told, I'm looking, there's a business coach, couple guys I'm really kind of eyeing right now. And those guys aren't cheap at all. Neither of them. At this point, I'm just looking to see who's a better fit for me because I know I'm looking to take things to the next level with what I do with this podcast, with what I do with my coaching and speaking. There's been some inconsistencies in those areas for me. And so I'm like, you know what? I know when I show up. I know when there's some accountability there to show up, and there's some things that I know I'll get back that I can't even begin. When I had a business coach in the past, I mean, I look at the results that I had. It was like I wrote a book. I wrote an Amazon best-selling book. Like I created an entire program. Like I started having the confidence to speak. Like things just happened. There were both tangible and intangible things that happened as a result of me making an uncomfortable investment toward me. Are you worth it? I know you are. And what you will get in return is going to be intangible and will accelerate your results, period. And the other thing I want you to do is I want you to fast forward to the end if you remain inconsistent. I want you to just fast forward to the end, and I want you to literally experience in your mind with emotion what would happen if you remain inconsistent. who suffers because of your level of inconsistency? Not only do you suffer, but do other people suffer because of your level of consistency? In your health, you become a poor example for your children? Are you on this earth for less amount of time because you weren't consistent in your health? Finances, the same thing. I just want to think about what that looks like in the future. Fast forward and go straight to the pain. And when you do, I want you to think about it and sit there for a minute, because that's what it can turn to if you don't become consistent. And then now, instead of fully experiencing the cost of inconsistency that will make your butt go and get in gear, you can just experience it, you know, through your imagination and say, I got to get going. Now, here's the cool part about this, kind of bringing this together as I land this ship, or as I land this plane. Oh, you get what I'm saying. It's this: God is proof of this idea of what it costs, of the upfront costs, and how cost equals commitment. Because when you think about it, you say, man, what, why is God so committed to us? Why is he so committed to loving us, to helping us be successful? Like, why does he care so much? And one of the reasons is, I'm sure, and I got to think, is because it cost him his son's life. You think about Jesus, and it's like, Jesus, it cost him his life. It's almost so, therefore, he's got to be committed to us, because look what it cost him. When it costs you more, you're more committed. So if you're inconsistent right now, if you have a lack of commitment, I get it. I've been there. But I'm going to ask you, what is it costing you right now? What is it costing you? Like, has it cost you enough yet? God's remained consistently loving us and seeking us and consistently wanting salvation for us. Like, he wants that. He's committed to us, because look what it cost him. What's it costing you right now? What have you just not invested enough in you? God died for you, so you are worth it. You're definitely worth it. No point in going back and forth between being consistent and inconsistent. Just don't do it. Just invest in yourself. Okay. Make it to a point to where it makes you uncomfortable so that you show up.